Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. That's Jens Schippel.
And that is Steve Jones.
And Jens, today on the program we have Grammy Award-winning Kentucky Headhunters.
Kentucky Headhunters!
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, I had the chance to interview Greg Martin, and this is a band that dates back to 1968. They formed as Itchy Brother. They kind of reformed a little bit years later, back in 1986, and have been together, mostly the same formation since then. So they've been around for a long time, and they've made some music, and we had a really great chat. He also showed me his Grammy, which just happened to be right behind him. So
conveniently located for your viewing pleasure.
Yes. So we'll bring them in just a little bit. We'll talk to Greg, but before we do, Jens, we each have a couple of stories to catch up on in the week. I want to hear about your weekend, because you had a weekend in Murphy's, which had just a little bit of alcohol, from what I understand.
Yeah, it was kind of a wino weekend.
Okay.
So it was a 3-day weekend. Took the day off of. I'm sorry. Are you drinking Coors Light?
We're gonna get to my story in just a little bit. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna pretend I did not see that. I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that.
I'll circle back to the why in just a little bit. So
I'll try not to be a beer snob, but I did not see that. Okay, so my wife and I just had our 10th year wedding anniversary.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Which was actually not this past weekend, but it just happened to be that this past weekend is when most of our friends had time to come and celebrate with us. So Murphy's, for those of you who don't know, is this little town in the Sierra Nevadas along Highway 4, I think, and it's a total little hole in the wall that has recently become really popular, and it's this fun tourist destination if you like things like wine. So you've got the Amador wine country, and there are lots of local wines that you can get a hold of in the area. There's some wineries too that are really close by. So my wife, being a big fan of wine, and a lot of our friends being a big fan of wine, and friends like Steve from Concert Pipeline who live in a vineyard, and you've been to a bunch of our parties, right? There's usually a wine theme.
You have wine themes. You had a party where it was for your dog, but really it was to drink a lot of different types of wine, and there were mystery wine tasting, and I, who know nothing about wine, beat all the others.
Beat the experts.
Challenge. Yeah, including this couple that had 2,300 bottles of wine in their house, but that's a different story. So
that's a totally different story, but it's also the exact same story, because it was pretty much the same damn weekend, except the fact that we weren't celebrating our dog's first year birthday. It was our wedding anniversary, but it put whatever label on it you want to. It was a weekend full of wine tasting and wine related games, and same thing that you just mentioned. All the bottles of wine that we were having people taste were had labels that we covered up with numbers written on them, so everybody had to kind of guess. Okay, number one tastes like a wine from Napa County, and it's probably a Zinfandel, and it's probably a 2017, that kind of stuff.
You went that in detail because last time we just did the type, right?
Yeah. So it was pretty detailed, but it was a bit over the top, because we had a bunch of different people, a bunch of different couples there, and we had rooms for all of them. So we were wine tasting in everyone's Airbnb. So we go from like one person's, place, and there'd be, a spread of cheese and all that other stuff that you normally have with wine. And we'd sample a bunch of reds, and then we'd go to somebody else's, place, and then there'd be a bunch of whites, and then so on and so forth, throughout the whole afternoon. And that couple that you were just talking about, they're wine experts.
Yes.
They've been wine tasting at almost every single winery in Northern California,
and know nothing about wine,
and score the worst on these things because they just overthink everything, right? They were there. But the story really centers around the get together that we had in the evening. This was kind of the highlight after the wine tasting all day long on Saturday night, where we went to the Murphy's Hotel, and we had a whole room rented out, just for eating and drinking and dancing and stuff. Before we all departed to go to Murphy's Hotel, and a little background, Murphy's Hotel is this old historic place that people like Mark Twain stayed at, and one of our presidents, a Grant, or I don't remember. So it has a lot of historical significance, and it looks really
You're
cool.
really on the history, Grant, or whatever.
I'm really on the history thing, and I hope I'm not like putting everybody to sleep, but there's a point to the story. So for those of you that love to watch shows like Hell's Kitchen, I think it's called.
It's raw. It's fucking raw. Yeah.
Right. Roy Kent. So Hell's Kitchen with the guy from
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay, thank you. So he goes into establishments, tells everyone how fucked they are and how their business is going to die unless he saves the day, and then he saves the day, and the ratings are up, and yay, and then
he leaves, and they
hopefully that brings in a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
yeah. The place becomes popular, and hopefully that boosts their business, right? They did that with Murphy's Hotel, and that aired a couple of years ago. So I showed everyone the first part of this
like
show.
Kitchen Nightmares or something.
I'm trying to remember. Is it called Hell's Kitchen?
Might be Kitchen Nightmares, I think, or something.
Okay, so whatever. It's on YouTube. I think that's where we were streaming it from, and sure enough, Gordon's there. He's in this place. He's interviewing the three guys that bought the establishment, and then 9 months later is when Gordon came to visit them, right? So Gordon finds out they've made absolutely no improvements in the past 9 months. The rooms still look like the day the place was built, right? The worst wallpaper ever. The place looks just dumpy. The food that Gordon ate was like rancid, and one dish he described as a sponge. Like, what is this, a sponge? And he's holding up chicken, or I don't know what it is. The bartender apparently gives lap dances.
Wow.
And the takeaway really is that these three guys really should have opened up a bar and not a restaurant, right? Because it was obvious the way they presented this. It's always dramatized, so you have to take everything with a little grain of salt. But the takeaway is that these three guys, when they bought the establishment, really should have just bought a bar, because they wanted to party. They wanted to give people a great time. They wanted great conversation. It was kind of like their frat boy experience that they, might have had in younger years. And they just wanted to continue living like that with a bunch of new friends, that would come over. So Gordon, just did a great job at illustrating how fucked they were going to be if they didn't make some major changes.
Sure.
So as all of our guests are watching this, their comments like, we're going to this place? Oh my God, why are we going to this place? I don't want to eat sponge chicken, They don't even offer local wines at this place. Oh my God.
They're so excited.
But then I stopped. I didn't want anyone to see the remake, how awesome it was after that. So when we all got there, they were like super excited, right? It was much nicer than they, we sort of told them it might be, and we all had just a bunch of great laughs. However, I have more to add to the story.
Continue on then.
So the food, from our experience, was good. The DJ that we ordered, that we reserved, thought the event was the day before,
Oh,
So the DJ showed up the day before and was wondering where the hell we were and was not able to reschedule for the next day. So we had no DJ.
okay. We got a refund there. Good. Okay.
But they did have this huge, massive concert type speaker that the DJ was going to use, and it just happened to be like a Bluetooth enabled speaker.
Oh, that
So
sounds a
I'm
lot
like,
cheaper.
okay, yeah, that sounds like cheaper, and we'll just go ahead and download like an 80s playlist or whatever and just go from there, right? No big deal. Out of all the technical issues I've ever dealt with in my entire life, I've never had one as fucked as this. Let me know if you've ever heard of this, right? So we're using the Apple Music app. We've downloaded like an 80s playlist. I've downloaded old songs to the device, pitch shuffle, and the damn speaker disconnects after every song. Like you have to repair the damn thing just to listen to the next song. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So maybe it's the phone. So we try another phone.
Same thing.
Same exact thing, right? We got 2 iPhones, an Android, same thing. It doesn't matter what kind of device you have. It just, we turn the speaker off, we turn it back on. And like troubleshooting requires a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was definitely alcohol involved in trying to troubleshoot this. And I probably had already like an entire bottle of wine by that point. But then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to do the old, like, unplug it for 2 minutes. I just yank the cable, the power cord out of the wall for 2 minutes, plug it back in. Bingo, issue resolved. So now we're like finally rocking out.
That's the thing, is it's always the easiest thing, like after all that, right? Like,
yeah, again, like, don't, like this, like the wine couple, don't overthink it. Just make it super simple. Kill the power.
Keep it simple.
Plug it back in.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had an amazing trip.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was good times. But it all comes together with like who you invite to these parties. And I've got to just say, I'm really grateful for, all the friends that we have together, including you, Steve.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make it.
That's all right.
I had other obligations, multiple. I mean, my kid's mom is in England, visiting her turning 98-year-old grandmother who won't die, and so I'm on kid duty for a week and a half, and also it was Duck Sausage Day, which you don't mess with Duck Sausage Day. I'm sorry, not your 10th anniversary is absolutely important, but you don't mess with Duck Sausage. and so it's
sacred, man.
It's sacred.
Yeah.
It's the most fun, and it's a lot of work, but it's the most fun. And so I was in charge of bringing the spices. My buddy John put together, hosted and put it together, and was like, okay, you bring this, you bring this, you bring this. Our buddy Joe came along. We went together. He hasn't been at a duck sausage party for like 4 years. It's been a while, and so he was like, I'm going no matter what, right? And so John broke down what everybody's bringing, but historically he had incorporated, okay, how much duck you're bringing into the equation of who brings what. Like, like historically I didn't bring very much duck, then I'm going to have to buy more pork for the sausage, right? Which is fair. Well, this year he decided not to incorporate the duck, into the equation. So I had to buy $133 of spices, while his buddy who didn't hunt, went on 2 hunts, so didn't produce any ducks to the party at all, brought leftover Coors and what's it begins with an M, I don't know, like
Miller
beer. No, it's not an American, it's one of the other I don't know, I'm
Milwaukee.
No, I'm okay, anyway, carry on. Garbage beer that was left over from something, an event he had. Oh, it was like from a wedding from 3 months ago or something like that. So he got to didn't have to buy anything. He got to bring leftover beer. And what's funny about my $133 spices and the 5 pounds of duck that I was bringing, I realized when we got there, I had this deer in the headlights look of like, oh shit. And they're like, what's wrong? What do you, something wrong? And I'm like, I don't think, I had the Italian spices,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't bring the 6 pounds of teriyaki pineapple spice. I was
Oh
like,
shit.
so that was either in the back of my Subaru at Joe's house or at my house. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. So I'm like, am I going back to Napa? Like they're like, you got to get the spice, and so I'm like
Uh-huh.
I get in Joe's car, I'm driving Joe's car, and I'm like, I'm not going to go all the way back to Napa. This isn't Vacaville, right? I'm like, I'm going to go back to Nugget, which is where I got it in Vacaville, and then I'm going to buy
Uh-huh.
another fucking 6 pounds of spice for over $100,
Oh my
rather than.
God.
So I have 6 pounds
Right.
of teriyaki spice extra, teriyaki pineapple. So I think Joe and I are going to try and make more sausage in the coming weeks at some point, but with that spice, because he has more meat. He didn't bring all
Right.
of his meat at all, but it takes all day, and it's an assembly line, group environment, and you drink
Right.
shitty beer, and
Right.
uh,
That's part of the process.
uh-huh.
Pineapple, spice, chicken sausage, beer.
Duck sausage. Nice try.
Duck sausage, yeah. So
Yes.
wait, are you the only one that brought duck sausage?
So no. So Joe brought like 10 pounds of, but his was mostly goose from his goose hunt, but he threw some
Mm-hmm.
duck in there too, and he had to bring some pork. Other guys had to bring pork too, but John's buddy dude didn't bring any. He didn't even have to bring pork. He just brought shitty beer, I think. So I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. John was like, so, me and some of the guys will float you some money for the spices, and the other guys didn't. And I'm not the type to be like, yeah, where's my $20 or something? It's just like fuck and whatever. It's not about that, but I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to host myself next year, and divvy it up better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but it'll probably be
Well,
at my house.
can you somehow save all the extra sauce, spice?
The seasonings, yeah. We're gonna try and use it, for other sausage. So yes, it is safe. It's not going to waste, but I don't know how long it'll last. It'll last long enough for us to use it if we use it in the next couple of months, I'm sure. But
Okay.
so we're gonna try and do it. It'll, just bust it out and do it. Joe and I make, keeping it simple, whatever. But it was a lot of fun, man. It was, it's so much fun to do that. And one of, John's buddies also made briskets,
Mm-hmm.
and bird hens, and it was so good. I finished. There were some
Cool.
leftovers, and I brought some home, and
Mm-hmm.
I had some for lunch today, and I only had like 15 minutes, and I wolfed it, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't not eat the rest of what I have. I put the rest in the microwave real quick, and I was like, before
Yeah.
my meeting, I was like, oh my god, it's so good.
Right. Oh
Yeah,
my
so good.
God. That sounds
Yeah.
delicious, man. I remember you showing me pictures from previous years, and you're right. It's like an assembly line, and this is like an industrial conveyor belt type of aluminum steel appliances.
Yeah, it takes like 7 hours or something. It's not a short process or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But we all work together, and
Stainless
um,
steel. Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, yeah, let's bring in our guest. Again, this is
Sounds
Greg
good.
Martin from Kentucky Headhunters. Had a really great chat, and I look forward to bringing it to you now. Very cool. Well, Greg, how's your day treating you so far?
So far, we're good. It hasn't been a whole lot going on today. At least the weather is much better. It's in the 60s out here, and it's been cold. And I cannot stand cold weather. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, or I had COVID back in 2020. I don't know if it triggered something. Who knows? But this day's been beautiful. Took a little trip in town, and kind of hanging out. It's been good.
You were better with cold weather before 2020?
What's that now? Well, I may have been, but I think it's just really me getting older, I don't like cold weather at all. What's the temperature out there?
Oh, I'm in California in the Bay Area, so we have like one season, right? And
Yeah.
it's probably mid 70s or something now. So it's nothing to complain. Says 62. Okay, yeah. So
we're about the same. Yeah, about the same.
I was down in I was just gonna say I was down in Los Angeles this past weekend and it was like 90, and I'm like, it's February. What is this? You know?
It was 90 degrees in
It hit
LA.
90. It hit 90. I was like sweating. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Man. Yeah, yeah, it's been it was not bad up till December. And then when January hit, buddy, it got cold. You know,
Yeah.
here, I don't know. I've had some sinus stuff going on and all that stuff, but other than that, it's been good. It's been a nice day so far. It's been pretty good.
Good. Good. Are you a football fan? Did you watch the game?
I'm terrible.
Yeah.
No, I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch the halftime. I didn't watch. I I should be shot, I guess, right?
No, no, I didn't have any stakes except I just coincidentally was going down to visit a friend down in LA that same weekend, and then realized, oh, it's a Super Bowl and it's here, and it's the LA team, and it's here, and they're playing in their home,
Yeah,
location. I'm like, it's going to be nuts. I saw two people the whole weekend, wearing Rams gear, I don't think they have a lot of pride towards their team or anything. I mean, certain spots maybe, of course, but
sure.
uh, but just out and about, there were more Cleveland fans even
Oh, I got you.
than,
I
than
got
LA
you.
fans. So I don't know.
No, no, I've never followed football, some basketball because of Kentucky, but I used to follow baseball way back in the day. Back when the Yankees were, when they had Mickey Mantle and Roger
Oh
Maris
yeah,
and Yogi Berra and all that stuff. But yeah, I've kind of, I don't know, man. When the music thing hit, it just changed everything basically. But I didn't see the halftime. I've seen the fallout since.
yeah,
There's varying opinions about what people thought. So I have no opinion whatsoever because I didn't see it.
sure. It's a good place to be. I'll keep it
Yeah,
neutral.
yeah. I'm an ostrich, man. I just put my head in the sand and go on with it.
Hey, that's not a bad thing these days. So just
Yeah.
focus on what's important. Yeah, so let's start like back at the beginning. Like, tell me what music was on in your house when you grew up. What did you listen to? Were your parents an influence on you at all musically?
Oh, absolutely. Well, growing up in Louisville back in the 50s, I would hear country music on the radio. They would listen to a little AM station out of Louisville called WTNT, which, you got Johnny Cash on. I've definitely heard a lot of Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, George Jones, Loretta Lynn, whatever was popular back in the 60s. I heard that. And that was my earliest recollection. So my older brother Gary, he was more into the rock and roll side. He was into Elvis, the Everly Brothers, and Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, and stuff like that. So, that those influences started coming through probably in the early 60s. And then of course when the Beatles sprang on the scene in 64, it just changed everything. But country music is a big part of it. It was just there, and it was just a part of the environment, so to speak. But I grew up in it's funny, I grew up in a mixed neighborhood, which was totally mixed, and the neighbors were African American, and I was starting to hear R&B from them. If I went over their house to play, which I played with these kids all the time, we were just buddies.
Yeah.
And I would hear, oh gosh, I would hear, BB King and stuff like that. And I went to a mixed school too. So my my early days were mixed with country, blues, and rock and roll, and whatever I heard. It was just a part of what I was, and where I
Yeah.
grew up.
You got a taste of it all.
Yeah, which was a good thing, actually. As you
Yeah.
know, music is colorblind anyway.
Oh, of course, of course. And you mentioned 1964 and the Beatles. I mean, were you watching when that was
Oh
when
yeah.
they played it at
Oh yeah.
Sullivan? Yeah, everybody
Yes.
was, right? Like,
Yeah. It was that was a big gunshot right there. And I didn't know what to make of the Beatles at first. I didn't say a whole lot, but inwardly, I was very knocked out by it. Of course, my parents couldn't figure out. Of course, their hair was nothing back then. It was really short.
Yeah.
But back then, you didn't see guys running around with haircuts like that. And of course, my parents couldn't put their finger on why they did that. But I think my parents inwardly liked them okay. But yeah, the Beatles were. It was quite a eye-opening experience on Ed Sullivan. Sure was.
Yeah. And so how old were you when you picked up the guitar? Was the guitar your first instrument?
Yes. Golly. I was in about the third or fourth grade. I was probably about 12 years old, 13 years old. And I grew up in a house that there were my older brother. He had a Fender Stratocaster. And then I had a cousin that lived with us. He moved up from South Central Kentucky up to Louisville to get a job, and he boarded, with us and stayed with us. And he had a 335. So those guitars were just naturally around the house, and I gravitated to them. I picked up a Mel Bay book, learned a few chords, and had friends in elementary school that would come by. We would play Ray Charles, What I Say, and Beatles songs, or attempt it, So I was probably I'm going to say fourth grade, which would have been 1964, about the same time the Beatles sprang on the scene,
Yeah.
And before that, I didn't really have an interest in guitar. Had an interest in music, had an interest in listening to the radio, but the music bug, on the guitar end didn't really hit. And I think the Beatles planted the seed for that, along with my parents. My dad played guitar, and my brother and uncles. There was music all around. Yeah.
Wasn't a stranger to your family then.
No, not at all, man.
Yeah. And so not too far after that, Itchy Brother formed, right? Tell me a little bit about Itchy Brother.
Well, yeah. I lived in Louisville. I was born in Louisville in 1953. And in end of 1966, my dad got fed up with Louisville, and he decided that he wanted to move to Edmonton, Kentucky, which was Metcalfe County. And the funny thing is, I just witnessed, I went to my first concert in November of 1966, the Lovin' Spoonful, which was another seed planter, so to speak. They just blew my mind, so to speak. And but then when Dad said we're moving to the country, that's what we call it, we uprooted and we moved to Metcalfe County. And the first year there, 1967, there wasn't much going on, but in the fall of 1968, I met Richard Young, who is my bandmate in the Headhunters, and we played a 4-H talent show together. And we just we got together with some kids at school, and we played maybe like Hey Jude, Born to Be Wild, Sunshine of Your Love. And Richard, he said, well, listen, I've got a band with my brother Fred and our cousin Anthony. Would you like to come over and jam? And I said, well, sure. And that was the beginning, the humble beginnings of what we know as Itchy Brother. And then they had been playing together under a different name before that. But it was pretty special, man. It was really special.
Yeah. And so you were in like 8th grade then or something around that time, right?
Yes. Well, actually, no. I was a freshman. Freshman.
Okay,
Yeah.
I went tonight.
Yeah, long story. When I moved from Louisville, they held me back a year, and so I was a freshman. Richard was in the 8th grade, and we met at the lunchroom at the elementary school. I walked down from the high school with my little Gretsch silver jet, and we jammed in the cafeteria, lunch, actually the kitchen. We just sat there and, well, do you know Born to Be Wild? Do you know this and that? And we were on the same page musically, so we got together. We started getting together, and by the late fall of 1968, into the winter, we started playing together, and that was the beginnings of it all.
Yeah. And so what were those early shows like? What do you remember of of kind of when you played that at that young age?
Well, gosh, it was amazing. The first thing we did together that I remember was a Toys for Tots show in Glasgow, Kentucky, with several bands that were big over in this area. And there was the host band was Us Incorporated, who had a record deal out of Nashville, Tennessee, and they had a 45 that did really good regionally. And matter of fact, they're on YouTube. You can look up Us Incorporated. You can see them out there. And so we thought, oh man, this is the big time. We're playing the National Guard Armory, and it was just invigorating. It was just electricity. It was just you got to remember, '68 was pretty much the height of the psychedelic thing. So there was a lot of psychedelic lights going on, strobe lights and all that, fuzz tones, wah-wahs and all that type of thing. And that was the first gig that we played together. Then the second gig, I think we played some birthday party at Park Mammoth Resort. Then after that, we played little dances and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I veered off and played with other guys and played dances and little benefits and stuff. Just the normal thing that everybody does during high school years.
Yeah. And so what does it mean to you to still be able to play music with those same guys, all these years later? What is that like?
Well, it's pretty amazing that it's lasted this long. I mean, it's really amazing it's hard to put it into words, really. Because we had to, there was a period I had to veer off, and everybody did the same thing. We had to veer off and do different things to make a living because of, families and stuff like that. But when we put the Headhunters back together in '86, it was Richard, Fred, me, along with Doug Phelps, the band that we have together now. There's a history there, the different members, but it just, considering that we started playing in '68 together, that we're even still alive, is amazing.
Yeah.
It must have been fate. That's the only thing I can figure out. And we were put together for a purpose, and we just try to do what we do the best we can.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the relationship between you guys. Like, what does it take to maintain that? And kind of how do you work together to make music?
Well, it's a family. You got Richard and Fred, brothers. Then I'm third cousins to them.
Yeah.
Then Doug Phelps, we kind of adopted because he's from Arkansas. It's just a very close relationship. It's there was me and Richard and Fred have been together through all the changes from day one. We had, in '92, Ricky Lee and Doug veered off for a brief time to do Brother Phelps, and we had to pulled in our cousin Anthony to play bass. So we pulled in a really great singer by the name of Mark Orr to sing. And we did 2 albums with those guys, one with Johnny Johnson and another album, just the band. But what I'm saying is, I guess just because of the perseverance and going through the mountain top experiences and the valley experiences, there's a bond. I had an offer to join Skynyrd back in '94, and it was a big honor to be asked to do that. But there's such a bond between us, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do that. There's a close bond between us three, and Doug, of course, too. Doug came back around '95, '96. He found his way back home, so to speak.
Yeah.
But to keep it going, it's a family. Does everybody always get along or agree? No, not always. But it's like any family. The glue that holds things together is love. You love each other, and we know one day when it's over, we'll we'll have some good laughs and something to smile about, you know?
Yeah. And so that Skynyrd offer, like, did it feel like one of the toughest decisions at the time to turn it down, or were you just in such a place and groove with the band that you were?
Well, it wasn't really tough because I knew as soon as I was asked that it wasn't the right thing for me. But I was honored that Gary Rosington asked me, and really I don't think I was the right guy for the band anyway. I think they end up getting another fella that fit the bill better, Mike Estes. What happened is back in '92. First off, I'd met Ed King at the Dallas Guitar Show, and we hit it off, and he was a big fan of the Headhunters. And then I was out mowing the yard one day, and I came in this very room right here to check I saw the answer machine. Somebody had called the phone, and it was Ed. He said, Greg, I've broken my finger, and we got some dates coming up. Can you help fill in? And of course, I was younger and had more I don't know, probably didn't have no common sense, probably, but I said, sure, I'll come help you, you know. And it was great. It was great, by the way. But so, you know, we got together in Jacksonville or rehearsed with them for like a week, and then I did about 3 weeks worth of dates with them. So that was it. That was basically it. I went out there 3 weeks of dates. Then I came back to the Headhunters. And when I came back from doing the stint with Skynyrd, the original Headhunters on Picking on Nashville imploded. You know, I came back early June of '92. And Doug and Ricky left the band. So we had to put the Headhunters back together. So when Ed called, not Ed didn't call me, it was Gary Rosington. When he called me in '94, it was winter of '94. The band had already been through enough trials. Losing them guys, for me to leave would not have been good for the band. And in the long run, it was the best thing I could have done, really, because the guy that took my place did real well. And then I think originally he left, and maybe Ricky Medlock came in. So I don't know. It just worked out like it was supposed to. It was an honor, but it wasn't that hard a decision. I just knew I did the right thing.
Yeah. And if you're looking back at that time with Lynyrd Skynyrd, or you toured with them, like what were some of the highlights from that period?
Well, it was just it was amazing. First thing I found out that I was not playing any of the songs right, because as a kid growing up playing around Louisville, playing in little bands, you know, we're playing Sweet Home Alabama or Freebird. Well, I was completely off base. I had no idea, because there are 3 specific guitar parts that mesh together to make that sound. And they're not a jamming band like the Allman Brothers. It's precise, you know. It's like it's a machine. It's put together, you know. Those 3 parts have to be there. So, and I'm a little bit lazy. I like to jam a little bit. I like blues. I like to jam. And there wasn't any of that, except maybe on They Call Me the Breeze. You could kind of stretch out and play something different on that. But what did I learn? Discipline. And also one of the highlights was we played Greenville, South Carolina, and that was probably the first time those guys had played there since the original band. They left Greenville to go wherever they were going. Then they had the crash, so they were very emotional that night, you know. So there was a lot of highlights, just getting to know Gary, Leon, Billy, just everybody that was out there. Just they treated me really good. Nice folks.
Yeah. Did you take any of that discipline with you and when you came back to Headhunters?
Yeah. Of course not. I'm a lazy Kentucky. No, man, we're all disciplined in our own way. You know, the thing is, man, we're all going to give 100% what we do. You know, man, if we pick up a guitar and we can hit the stage, we're going to go for 110%, man. You know, I think it did fire us up. It fired us up because we knew when I came back from Skynyrd and then the Phelps brothers had left, we had to pull in 2 new band members, and we had to go and start a new album very quick.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we were very disciplined. Maybe the Skynyrd, maybe the high from being out there with Skynyrd helped a little bit for me, but we had business to do, and we did it, and we pulled it off. We did an album called Rave On with Mark Orr singing and Anthony Kinney playing bass. So
yeah,
we went right back to work, man. You know,
you did, and pretty quick after that, you did a tour with Ray Cyrus, right?
oh, we sure did. Yeah,
Tell
we
me about
toured
that.
with them. We were out with Hank Jr. a little bit. Of course, the Hank stuff was mostly the original, the lineup with Ricky and Doug. We did a lot of touring with Hank, but yeah, you're right. We we hit the road with Billy Ray pretty quick. That was fun. He's a fellow Kentuckian, you know.
Yeah, you get to chat with him a bit and
Yes,
bond. Yeah.
He's a good fella. Yeah, he sure
That's
is,
cool.
man. He was on top of the world about that time, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure he still is.
yeah, I'm sure. I got to see him live once, probably 15 years ago or so, you know, and puts on a good show. So yeah.
Yeah. He's a nice guy. We love the band. They were good guys. I'm not sure if he's still out touring now. I'm a little. I haven't kept up with him. I know about 2 or 3 years ago he had like a little hit record with another fella, you know, kind of rap country thing.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your gospel rock album, Mighty Jeremiah's, that you did. That's pretty interesting to me.
Well, I wished it was still in print. We're working on that. Well, you know, in '92, when the original Headhunters broke up, and I say original Headhunters, the only reason I say that is the first album consisted of Ricky, Doug, Fred, Richard, and me. You know, I really, the original Headhunters is what's together now. That's how it started. But after the band imploded, we did another album, and we had some time. It seemed like we had some time off. So my stepson John, who was living with us, his band, who were out touring on an album, they had a record deal. They were called Black Cat Bone. Their band broke up. And so me and John just started going to the studio and recording some stuff for fun. And we recorded a version of John the Revelator by Son House. You heard that song, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And we recorded it was a pretty cool version. And John sang it originally, but I had this vision in the back of my brain that I thought, if I could get Jimmy Hall to come over and sing a couple of these songs, it'd be great. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jimmy Hall. He was the vocalist with Wet Willie.
Okay.
He sang with Jeff Beck. He's been out with Hank Jr. as his band leader. He sang with a lot of different people. But I got him to come up one afternoon, and he sang the John the Revelator track, and man, he just nailed it. And I said right then, I said, you know, there's something going on here that we need to investigate. And I started writing some gospel songs, pulling some songs in. We did a nice version of Amazing Grace. And it was just I guess at the time it was, you know, a time of reflection, because, you know, our band had been on top of the world, and then the plug got pulled on us, so to speak. It was probably a blessing in disguise, but, you know, and I thought it was just it's just a time to go back and visit the roots, which is gospel a little bit. And that's how that started, really. It was just a little jamming. And I started bringing friends in. I brought some of the Headhunters. Every Headhunter, even Ricky and Doug, even though they weren't in the band at the time, they're on the project. They're on the project. And I have Phil Kagi. I've got Bonnie Bramlett on it. Richard and Fred are on the project. A lot of different folks. It was on a label, Air Ecstasy Records, and had good distribution. But then the distribution company went south, and then the record label went south. So it's I've been trying to keep them in print, or trying to get it placed with another label, but it's just as you know, the record industry is a different animal now.
Oh, it's
now.
completely different for sure. Yeah.
But me and Jimmy played a few dates together, got out and played a little bit together, but it never was a real touring band, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was a labor of love, so to speak.
Yeah, and you mentioned your son Johnny. Like, I know you have a pretty extensive music library, and like your son would like dig into it a lot, right? Like,
Yeah.
tell me about kind of passing the torch a little bit and him growing up musically.
Well, I married Ruth in '79, and she had two small kids, and both of them turned into really great musicians. My stepdaughter, Sherry, played, and she's a drummer.
Yeah.
And she played a group called Velvet Elvis, and they had a record deal. They were out touring with REM and people like that back around '79, '78. And
Nice.
matter of fact, she's on her way to Belgium right now. She's playing with a fellow by the name of Indy Presley.
Okay.
Are you familiar with him at all?
Sounds familiar, but I'm not sure offhand.
I'm not sure if he's an alternative country artist, but he's supposedly kin to Elvis. But she's going over to play 25 shows like in a month. And I'm like, Sherry,
That's a lot.
the last time he went to Europe, it about killed me, just doing 10 shows or whatever it was. And I said, well, but anyway, Sherry's a really great drummer. Then my stepson, John, when I would leave the house, he started coming down. Now he's a drummer too, a really good drummer. He played drums on the Mighty Jeremiahs, but he's also a really good guitar player. So he would come down steps. I would hear him pecking around. He'd be listening to my Fabulous Thunderbirds records or Clarence Gatemouth Brown or Lightning Hopkins, and he'd be trying to pick up these licks. And he really, really is a great slide player and really a great drummer. So yeah, I had no idea when I married Ruth that I was going to be married into a musical family, so to speak. Have my own little. I mean, we could have our own little family band if we wanted to.
Yeah, they were pretty. They were young when you.
Oh yeah, they were.
Too.
Oh gosh, yes. Johnny was in grade school, and Sherry was probably, when I married Ruth, she was probably a sophomore or something like that in high school. But these kids grew up coming out to the practice house and listening to Itchy Brothers. So yeah, we influenced not just me, the rest of the guys as well influenced them, and it's like passing the torch. And now I've got grandkids coming up and they're playing their butts off, I mean, there's like one of the grandkids, a great drummer, and then two of them are guitar players. They're like Johnny and Sherry. They got it, Now Ruth never played an instrument, but she was an artist and she loves music. But the kids, it came from somewhere,
Yeah.
Maybe I just pushed them over the edge.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be something there, right? So they latched on to the passion, I think, probably, right?
Oh yeah, the passion. They're very passionate about music. And I mean, there again, after Itchy Brother folded in '81, I had to take a gig out of Nashville. I don't say had to in a negative way, but I took a job with a country artist by the name of Ronnie McDowell, who was huge in country at the time, and that was a godsend because it gave me a income. Plus, I met Doug Phelps the very first day that I started with Ronnie. Doug Phelps tried out, and he got the gig. So we started working together, and he was a part of the Headhunter puzzle in '86 when we put that together. So the kids, they saw all the things I had to do, from playing rock to disco to country, whatever it took,
Yeah. Did they come with
the bills paid?
Did they come with you on tour ever? Or?
Actually, Johnny was on tour with us back in September because Fred got sick with COVID, and we had to take off. One weekend we took off completely because two of the guys in the band had COVID. But when we reconvened, we said, well, we need to go back to work. And Johnny ended up playing drums for the Headhunters on, like, I don't know how many shows, like 4 shows or something like that. So yeah, now Sherry's been on the road with us, but it's been a long time. But Johnny, yeah, last time Johnny was out was September, and he was actually playing with us.
Yeah, that must have
He
been
got
pretty cool for
baptized
you,
with
right?
fire. Huh?
Yeah, that must have been pretty cool for you, right? Like to be
It
able
was
to have him
great.
on stage playing with you.
He did a good job. Yeah. Fred's better, and everybody got through the COVID thing. We're all thank God. I've had it.
Yeah.
3 of us have had it so far.
Yeah, it can be ugly, right? So, but
Yeah. My case wasn't too bad, but Fred's case was pretty extreme. Really,
Yeah. Hopefully, we're turning a corner now, and we'll.
I hope so.
Ready to be done with it. I'll tell you.
Yeah, God, I'm done with it, man. I mean, it's real, and I've had it. And it was luckily my case wasn't bad, but man, it's wreaked havoc on a lot of people I know. So
yeah, for sure. How have the shows been for you? I mean, obviously everybody had to take a break from playing live shows for a bit, but then how have getting back into it and everything?
Well, 2020, as you know, we started the year 2020 with expectations it was going to be a great year. We had a lot of shows on the books. We went out, we played about 3 or 4 shows early in 2020. I know we went to Florida, played 2 shows, but the last show I remember us playing before the pandemic hit was at the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia, mid-February. And we started hearing about COVID hitting. So we played the show. We had a really good night, had fun. And we said, well, we got a month off. We'll go home and recharge and get ready for the year. And lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, all the dates started moving and disappearing, And 2020, I think we ended up doing maybe 9 or 10 shows. It all, there was a few drive-in shows and a few distancing shows. And of course, I missed the very last show of 2020 because I had COVID. I tested positive anyway.
Yeah.
And so that was a weird year. I got my basement halfway clean. That was one good thing. All the years of a constant perpetual mess here in the basement. So, I mean, back before 2020, I couldn't sit here and do what I'm doing right now because it was just a total wreck. But last year was a pretty good year. We started a new album in early part of 2021. It was released in October, but we ended up doing about 45 shows last year, which is pretty good, And I think this year may be pretty good as well. Yeah.
So before we talk about the new album, I want to talk about the Grand Ole Opry. You have an interesting story in that you almost got to play it, but because you guys had long hair, you weren't able to, and then you finally got your chance, right?
That's the story. I've always heard that. And I like the story, so we'll keep it going. Well, evidently, Richard, when this is true, Richard was a writer at Acuff Rose in the 80s. And he ran to Roy Acuff in the hall one day down there. And Mr. Acuff said, son, who are you? So I'm Richard Young. I'm writing down here. He said, okay, you need a haircut. That's what Richard said. So evidently we were probably offered to play in early 90s and maybe do our hair. And we really were not that wild. But we just come off like a bunch of wild banshees. They probably were scared of us. So they didn't have anything to do with us. But about 10 years ago, now they did offer us another shot 10 years ago, but they wouldn't let us bring any of our amps on. You had to use whatever they had there. And we said, no, thank you. But then when they came back last year and offered it to us, they made some concessions and some changes, and it made sense to do it. And it turned out to be a great experience. It really did. The audience was wonderful. The staff was wonderful. So maybe just waiting all those years made it even that much more special,
Oh yeah, you were very patient, let's say, to for that opportunity.
Yeah. They were good to us. I had played it back in the 80s with Ronnie McDowell, but it was the same thing. getting to do it with your own band, and your own music, that made it even more special. It was great.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the new album. Now that's a fact, Jack. Tell me about your process with creating this album. I mean, you made it during COVID, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we really were going to start in 2020, but due to the COVID thing, we couldn't. But everybody at their leisure was coming up with ideas and thinking about songs, and we probably were going to start at the end of 2020, but I ended up getting COVID. And then next thing you know, the holidays hit. So that made everything impossible to get together, do anything. We decided in early 2021 that we needed to get together and do an album. And there was a prospective label out of Europe that had international distribution originally, wanted to put the album out. But of course, they ended up having some problems within the organization. I'm not sure what. So we ended up going a different direction. But anyway, we went in the studio and we recorded. We just got together. We deadheaded in the studio in February of last year. And somebody say, oh, okay, here's a song I've got. Let's hash it out now. And that's what we would do. We would just, people would bring songs in. We'd work them up on the spot. And we would get a take, and then we would start working on it after that. All of it was original. There was one song that Blackstone Cherry wrote with Richard, How Could I? And then we did one cover that was written by Rick Derringer, Cheap Tequila. And then there was another song, which I sang. I'm not a singer, by the way, but I sing on it. It's Shotgun Effie. We wrote that back in 1973. Yeah. So I just thought, we're doing this. We're getting older. We don't know how much longer we're going to do this. Let's get us a decent version of this song and just have it archived properly,
Yeah.
Because the first time we did it was 73. We were just kids, So, but
how did that song evolve over the course of time between 73 and now?
Honestly, it didn't evolve that much. It's weird. I kept thinking, like, well, Fred wanted me to sing Cheap Tequila. And I said, Fred, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. And I sang it one time. And I said, man, I'm not the guy to do this. So Fred ended up doing it because he's the one who kept pushing it. I said, I feel like we should try Shotgun Effie. And I kept thinking we need to do it different. But when we got in the studio, it just went back to 1973. And we just had a better groove. And, things we really couldn't do back then properly. Back then my slide playing sounded like a screech, a cat getting run over by a steamroller. At least it sounded a little better on this one. My singing there again, I don't consider myself a lead singer, and it was a little bit out of my range because we went right back to the original key. I don't know what we were thinking, but it come off. It's a pretty good version of it. If you go back and listen to the original version, there was an urgency, and it was just so much raw energy in 73 that we didn't know what we were doing. We were just bashing it out, But it's really, we just kind of picked back up from 1973. Doug Phelps, even though he wasn't with us back then, he played the most perfect bass part that they could have played. So it was a good tribute to Itchy Brother, really.
Pretty nostalgic, I imagine, to go back play it again.
I'm glad we got to do it, man. I'm glad, because we're just getting older now. You never know. God knows what could happen. We've seen that the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you don't know. Have you played it live, Chuck and Effie?
No, we haven't. Now we haven't yet. Now we're just gearing up for this year, and we'll have to. Last year we were just pretty much doing stuff that we knew. I think we did the one Christmas song we had on the album that ends the album. Let's all get together and fight. We did that because that was we're going into the Christmas season, so we did that. But we'll have to work up to 3 or 4 songs off the new album pretty soon and do it.
Yeah.
We haven't done Shotgun Effie. I will have to work hard. If I have to sing it, it'll kill me, man.
You're gonna have to pull it out.
I'm not gonna volunteer unless I have to do it.
Look, you have the guitars right there. You could play right now. That'd be great.
I could, man. I could. I don't have. If I hit this Marshall back, there's a Marshall behind me. Now the neighborhood will come start beating on the door. I was playing one of these Marshalls one day last year, and I was just blasting away. And all of a sudden, I started hearing somebody beating on the door.
Yeah.
And it was I went and opened the door to the garage door, and some little kid said, "Mister, that sounds pretty good." He tried to give me a $10 bill. I don't know if he was trying to get me to stop or if he was trying to get me to play more.
Thought he had to pay for his ticket, It was that good,
I guess so, man.
You're like, prices have come up, kid, it's more than $10 now.
Oh man, it was fun. I haven't seen the kid since, but anyway, there's the reason I say that, these heads are right here, and about 20 feet from here, out in the garage, there's a long cord, there's a Marshall cabinet out there. So if I play, it's not killing me in here, but it's the neighborhood's hearing it though.
Yeah,
because I do a live stream for a guitar channel called Together, which is 2gthr.co. And like David Grissom does it, Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke does it, Audley Freed from Sheryl Crow's band does it, and I do it about twice a month. And I have to do that. So the neighborhood are getting bombarded about twice a month for this. I try to be nice to them though any other time.
I'm sure they enjoy it, just in doses, right? So
yeah, as long as I'm not doing it around 1 o'clock at night, I think they're okay. I got a state trooper next door.
He'd let you know if there's a problem.
Yeah, he'll let me know, man. He's a good. I'm glad he's there though. Glad he's there. Yeah.
Tell me about Rufus Huff.
Rufus Huff. That was started. Probably the scenes for that go back to like 2003, and it took a while to get going, but a dear friend of mine who we still play together, Dean Smith, bass player, great bass player. He's played with Itchy Brother too, played with several. He was out with a group called Super Fuzz, and he plays with Tail Dragger. We we started talking about that maybe putting together a 3-piece band to kind of explore the jam band thing. And so we got together with this drummer we used to play with, Chris Hardesty, and then we brought in Jaron England to sing. And initially we were just going to play some blues and stretch out and play a bit, jam. And we went in the studio, and there again, it's kind of like Rufus Huff. It wasn't planned, but we ended up recording a pretty strong album, actually. It's on Zoho Roots. I believe you can still get it, thank God. And it was just one of these things that went from like, I'm not sure when we really got off the ground, 2005, and it went for a few years, but then we had some health issues hit the drummer, and we just had to pretty much put it on the shelf, But it was a 3-piece band with a singer, kind of like Zeppelin, or not like, I'm not comparing us to Zeppelin. It wasn't that good, but it was like a Kentucky version of something like that, And we had a lot of fun, man. We opened up for Joe Bonamassa, was a big fan. We opened up for Joe. He wanted us to go on tour with him. We had a semi-hit over in Spain with one of the songs, and we could have went over on the road back then, but everybody had different gigs to do. We just never could pursue it like we should have.
Yeah, fun side project though, huh?
It was a good side project. It was played through 2 100-watt Marshalls. It was loud, man. It was a loud band. No holds barred. Yeah.
So Greg, as we kind of wind out, I want to know your experience with winning the Grammy for Best Country Performance. Like, what back in 1990, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was surreal. You know, we I guess when Picking on Nashville came out, uh, somehow we hit a nerve, and you know, we didn't expect any of this to happen. Matter of fact, when I left Ronnie McDowell to pursue the Headhunters full time, I thought, well, this is pretty much. I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but I was just being realistic about it because the music business is hard. You know, anybody get a record deal, but can you keep a record deal? You know, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we, when it started taking off like it did, it caught every one of us by surprise. You know, we didn't expect it. Just everything, all the cylinders were firing at once, doing, and you know, the Nashville music community got behind us, and we were nominated, and we went to New York and we won. You know,
Yeah.
it was amazing. We've been nominated 4 times and we've won 1. Matter of fact, here you go, right here. Did you see this?
I did not. Okay. There you go. I'm gonna take a picture.
I don't usually keep it behind there, but I got it today. So there you go. That's our
Oh,
Grammy.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You can see it pretty good right there, maybe.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want to break it.
No, be careful. That would be really
But
unfortunate.
you know, man, we won a lot of awards, man. We won the ACM Group of the Year. We won 4 CMA awards, and we won some Billboard awards. And I guess by all that happening early on, it gave us a real strong foundation. Because you know, who knows if things had been slow, the band may have not lasted. You know,
Yeah.
You know, people could have gotten discouraged early on and jumped ship. Yeah, I don't know. God only knows what happened like it did. But the Grammy was a great thing. I never even thought that was possible to even win a Grammy. Never even thought anything about it. You know, we didn't even get into it for that. But it's a great thing for sure.
Yeah. Did it change the dynamic with the band at all? Like the vibe? I mean, you know, obviously everybody still worked together, finding everything, but did it change like the energy around
Oh,
it?
I'm sure it you know, it gave us some confidence, and you know, to turn up the steam a little bit. Maybe we turned the steam up too much. I don't
Yeah.
know. You know, originally the band was kind of a rockabilly, little blues, a little rockabilly, a little rock, and then you know, by the time the second album comes out, you know, we're leaning more towards the rock thing, and you got, you know, but I think it was just a good thing. I mean, the band has morphed into what it is naturally. You know,
Yeah.
we don't sit around and have meetings like, okay, let's take it more into this direction. It just happens.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course.
we listen to a lot of music, and a lot of that music comes back out. You know, it's like putting stuff into a computer. It just pulls out at some point. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Greg, what's next for you? What do you got cooking? Are you still writing music or shows?
Oh yeah, we'll always write. The Headhunters will hit the road in March. We'll start touring again. We've already done 2 dates this year. We actually wound down. Well, see, we wound down back in November of last year. Then we did the Grand Ole Opry early December. Our performance will be on Circle TV in May, I believe. And besides having a terrible sinus thing going on right now, get over that before we tour. We'll start back in March, and we'll work about, I don't know, 50, 60 shows, I think, maybe, if we're lucky, as long as the pandemic doesn't get crazy or anything like that. So we'll work this album for a couple of years and just keep going and see what happens. I do a radio show. I've been doing a radio show in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's a blues radio show, but it's really a roots radio show. When I say roots, it covers blues, R&B, rock. We don't get real heavy, but it's called the Low Down Hoedown.
Yeah, you've been doing that for a while, right?
Yeah, I've been doing it for 20 years.
Wow.
Actually, 20 years at one station and 2.5 years at another station. So it's every Monday night from 7 to 10 Central Time on WDNS FM out of Bowling Green. And you can listen in live. You can go to WDNSFM.com and you can download their app and you can hear it. So I've had a lot of guests on the show. John Sebastian from The Lovin' Spoonful, Peter Frampton, Billy Gibbons, Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple, a lot of different people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty fun, huh? Yeah.
And I do the live stream for Together, which is 2gthr.co. Not .com, but .co. And if you're into guitars, you might be into that, you know. And then the Headhunters. Check us out, KentuckyHeadhunters.com. Yeah.
Keeping busy, not slowing down, right? So
no, man. I mean, we'll do it as long as the good Lord lets us do it, man. We'll do our thing.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Greg, I want to thank you for taking the time today. All right, Jens, that was the interview with Greg Martin of Kentucky Headhunters here on Concert Pipeline. And that takes us to the final segment of the program. Jens, what is it?
Well, Steve, it's that time in our program to try to guess which international beer starts with the letter M that we were not able to guess during the first part of the segment of the show. Which, as you were able to remember, is Modelo.
Modelo, yes, exactly. I remember right after we stopped recording. Yes. But it's also time for the music news.
Yes, exactly. So in all seriousness, it is time for our music news segment where we spend some time here towards the end of the show talking about what's new in the music world. Let me start.
Yeah, we got just a couple stories and let you kick it off. And what you got?
Sounds good. So, as you know, Spotify has been in the news for a while.
They have? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, if you hadn't noticed that, Spotify has been in the news.
I think the only thing that could get them out of the news is a war, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So Spotify is to change its playlist rules. Imagine that. We're going to change some rules here following the Pocket Gods protest album.
Do you remember this? I told you this story a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about it.
It's very possible that I heard every word you said.
Anyway,
I probably drank too much wine over the weekend and having a really hard time recalling a single sentence that was uttered.
Well, utter some sentences about this story and maybe it'll ring true.
Sounds good. All right. So Spotify said, we're ahead of the curve as shorter songs are in the future. I don't know what that means. Spotify agreed to change the rules on playlists following the release of a 1,000. Oh, now I remember, of course. The 1,000 track protest album by cult indie band The Pocket Gods, which rallied against the streaming platform payment rates, right? So they had 1,000 songs and each were under 30 seconds or something? Let's see.
They were right at 30 seconds or longer, right? Like to get that royalty. Right, okay. So you have to play for at least 30 seconds to get royalty? Is that what it is? I think so. Spotify has been accused of paying artists as little as, oh my God, 0.002 pounds, which is even less than cents, for each stream on its service, with royalties only being activated if a song is listened to for at least 30 seconds. Okay. My God. So a 2015 article on the economics of streaming then influenced the Pocket Gods to release 1,000 times 30. Nobody makes money anymore on Spotify on February 8th, with each of the record's 1,000 tracks clocking in around the 30-second mark. Okay. Can we talk about like how many songs people listen to out of those 1,000? I mean, there's no way, right? Like, there's no way they could do all of them, right? It's 500 minutes at least. Let's call it, 600 minutes for fairness, which is, I mean, hours and hours still of listening. So, assuming that that people are getting through it, but how did it do? So let's see.
Code, I saw the 2015 article and it made me think, why write songs when we get paid little enough for just 30 seconds? Frontman Mark Christopher Lee said. So the Stunt, which has seen their protest album clock up nearly 600,000 total streams.
Now you say that pretty intensely, like it's a lot, right? But if we're talking 600,000 times 0.002, I don't know the conversion to pounds to dollars. But that would be 1,200 pounds for that many streams. So, and imagine splitting that. There's taxes on that, and you have to split that between, let's say, 5 guys.
That's not much, right?
In a band.
We're talking just a couple bucks. Coffee. That's coffee money.
And for 600,000 streams, yeah.
I'm just surprised that it got 600,000 listens. Doesn't that mean that it got 600,000 listens?
Yeah. I guess so. Good for them, but
so good for them. Yeah. So that has now drawn a response from Spotify, with founder Daniel Ek reportedly reached out to Lee to set up a meeting between the Pocket Gods and Spotify's head of our relations.
So it sounds like Spotify.
I think I ran out of words. So they said that I can pitch 30 seconds. They said that I can pitch 30-second tracks to their playlist for consideration. I wasn't able to do this previously as the songs were considered too short. So next week I'm releasing a 30-second single. So did they? What rules did they change?
So rates to songwriters are going to increase when they roll out an increase in the subscription price. Let's see. I don't know. It sounds like they're not going to allow that 30-second stuff anymore. I don't know. That's what we'll go with. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This whole article is so wordy. I don't know if they really have an answer to that.
It's too much. We got to the heart of the story, I think. So that's fine.
All right. But I thought that was, that was brave. I mean, that must have been, entertaining for them to do.
Yeah. And so we have a light news day today, but this next story has a couple of different parts in it. So I'll take it on. It has to do with our favorite rock god, Mr. Dave Grohl.
That's right.
So Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters had a horror comedy movie come out this past Friday called Studio 666.
Which we're going to have to see, of course.
We're going to have to see. We penciled in seeing it this weekend possibly, so we're a little late on the review, but and we don't have an interview lined up right now, but it will get in there.
We will talk about it. That is guaranteed. You might have to wait a week, maybe longer, but we'll get there.
Yes. But let's talk about Dave Grohl a little bit. First off, he said he's never going to go solo because he actually likes being in the Foo Fighters. I don't know why that's a question, because he's never leaned that way, but people like to stir shit up. So whatever on that story. Then another piece, we're talking about the Studio 666 movie. It was dubbed a flop, Jens.
You know what? Some of the best films that have been dubbed a flop are iconic.
Yeah.
I'm already real skeptical, and I don't know who the review committee comprised of, but we're talking Dave Grohl here.
So I will say that's from what I saw, that's by reviewers, not by fans, not by the audience, right? Like the audience score was a lot higher than the reviewers, but it didn't get the money that they wanted either, probably. So it grossed an estimated $1.6 million after it opened at 2,300 theaters. Uncharted claimed the top spot of the week during its second week in theaters. I mean, it hasn't done super well, but
maybe it'll be a cult classic.
they also made it as a joke,
Right.
really. But and so
I'm sure they didn't make it with the intention to make a ton of money, right? I'm sure it wasn't one of those, hey, let's make a film as the total money grab thing.
yeah,
It
I
seems
don't think
like,
so.
right. I don't think that was the intention. And I mean, I don't want to say anything. As long as it's entertaining, I have zero expectations. I just want to see Dave's facial expressions. Yeah, you got to wear your Foo Fighter shoes.
Okay, yes, you remind me of that. I will have to wear that. So let me see here. I'm trying to see where it. Wow, yeah, it was number 8 on the. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Are you looking at,
Average theater. Yeah, I'm looking at Box Office Mojo.
Okay.
The average theater brought in $668. Not wonderful. Not wonderful totals. Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, let's try Rotten Tomatoes, right?
They say, where is it? Studio 666. Where are you? I don't even see it there.
I can't even find it.
I know. Why is it? It's not even.
I see Sonic Highways. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Studio 666. Oh, it looks better on Rotten Tomatoes. So 57%.
Yeah. Tomato meter. So it's a splat.
On the tomato meter. Yeah, so it's a splat in terms of the reviewers, but in terms of the audience, it's an 80%.
80. I know. It's always interesting when there's that divide, right? Like between reviewers and the audience. So the audience likes it, which gives us hope for actually enjoying it, when we go to see it this weekend. And then Jens, the last piece of the Dave Grohl story is that the lineup for Aftershock Festival 2022 in Sacramento was announced, with headliners My Chemical Romance, Foo Fighters, Slipknot, Kiss,
no way,
and more.
Wow.
So Papa Roach, Judas Priest, Lamb of God, Evanescence, A Day to Remember, Stone Temple Pilots.
Whoa.
All included. But I will say that on the day of the Foo Fighters, the rest of the lineup fucking sucks. I'm like, I can't even go because there's Zack Sabbath. Actually, that would be cool. If you're not familiar, Zack Sabbath is Zakk Wylde, who is Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist,
right?
And his Black Sabbath cover band. That would be cool. But every other band, I'm like, I don't know. I don't even really know them on the Foo Fighter day. So I'm like, meh, I'm good. I'm good off that. It's sad because I'm like, I don't know. It'd be great to see Foo Fighters, but I could have seen them this past year in Sac at their own headlining show, and I didn't go. And
right. And when is the show?
Great question, Jens. Tickets are on sale now. This is, I think it's like September or something. Does it say? It says October 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So that'll be October 9th for.
So it's not going to be crazy freaking hot,
right?
In Sacramento at that time, and hopefully, a lot of the COVID stuff is much less of a big deal back then. So so what I'm saying is, hopefully, there'll be less of a risk for the show to be for bands to drop out of the show or reschedule or whatnot.
I know. I think it'll go on. Things are getting better, and some shows are still getting postponed, like one that we were planning on going to. But it looks like the kids' schools are going to take away the mask requirement and make it a recommendation, which is huge.
I heard that. Hold on, my dog is vomiting.
Your dog is vomiting. Okay. Yes, I will hold on while your dog vomits. So, if you can ask, Jaeger not to, vomit during the pod, that'd be great. So
Jaeger's got to stop drinking. This little dog, I don't want to get off tangent, but will not eat. He has not eaten normal food all day. He keeps on running outside and eats garbage. Like,
maybe he had too much wine.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably
I didn't mean like garbage trash. I mean like just garbage that falls off trees.
Okay. No, yeah, not just garbage around
Tree
the river. Yeah.
Oh, poor guy. All right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We may or may not have a show next week. We may take a week off, but again, I'm in the process of buying a home, and that takes a lot of time. So
It does. That takes time, energy, got priorities, man. But we will be back.
We will be back. You gotta subscribe to the pod and on Facebook. Well, you can check it out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, not Spotify, yeah, but Apple Music and Stitcher. Not Spotify. We took ourselves off of Spotify right before it was
Our
cool to do
podcast
that,
is longer than 30 seconds.
No.
All right.
It is.
More puke piles.
Yes.
We're puke
for
pile
all of
number
us
2 now.
For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, that's Jen Schipple.
That is Steve Jones.
We'll catch you next time.
Later.